Hi, welcome to Spec Hunter. It's hard to believe it has already been 2 months since the Switch 2 launched. Time really does fly. I've been having a blast with it, spending time with friends, and enjoying the upgrades Nintendo has made. Playing Mario Kart World on a giant TV with a buddy feels like the kind of fun the Switch was always meant for. And while the fun is real, there's a lot to unpack about this console. The first thing I noticed was how much better old games feel. Tears of the Kingdom, for example, now runs at 60 frames per second instead of 30. That alone makes the game feel smoother and more alive. And then there are games we never thought would run on a Switch. Hogwarts Legacy and Cyberpunk now run here, which is still surprising even though those games are years old. It shows how far Nintendo has pushed the hardware. But once the initial excitement fades, you start asking questions. Was the Switch 2 worth waiting 7 years for? At times, it feels more like a Switch Pro than a true Switch 2. And when you think about the price and compare it to handheld PCs like the Steam Deck and Steam Deck OLED, the answer is not so clear. Those devices can often run the same games better and with more features. That makes you wonder if the Switch 2 really lives up to its hype. On the one hand, this is a Nintendo console, so the focus should be on fun. On the other, some flaws are hard to ignore. The LCD screen is decent, but not great. The battery life feels like a step back in some cases. Repairability is poor. And even though Nintendo has tried to fix Joy-Con drift, people still worry it could return. A new console is supposed to be better in every way than its predecessor, but with the Switch 2, that isn't always true. If you came from the original Switch, it's a massive leap. But if you already own the Switch OLED, the jump forward feels smaller. Prices make things trickier. In the US, Nintendo accessories have gone up by a few dollars. The Switch OLED is now only slightly cheaper than the Switch 2. That makes upgrading harder to justify. Still, it's not all bad news. The Switch 2 does bring a lot of fun. Games load faster, they look better, and the Joy-Cons are bigger and more comfortable. The kickstand is much sturdier than the original. The screen, while not perfect, is bigger, brighter, and faster. Dock it to a TV, and the games look fantastic. So yes, it is a step forward, even if it isn't flawless. Battery life is one area where I was disappointed. Playing Cyberpunk gave me about 2 hours. Tears of the Kingdom lasted 2.5. Mario Kart World lasted about 3.5. Simple games last longer, but for a portable console, that's not ideal. The Switch OLED actually lasts longer. The LCD screen is also a mixed bag. At first, I was impressed. It's bigger, sharper, and has higher resolution. But compared to OLED, the blacks look gray, viewing angles are weaker, and sunlight makes it hard to see. It's fine for most players, but when you know what OLED offers, it feels like a step back. Competition doesn't help. The Steam Deck OLED has a 90 Hz OLED screen, longer battery life, and better performance. It can play more games too, though it doesn't have Nintendo exclusives. That is the one thing only the Switch can offer, and it's why so many people still choose it. But the Switch 2's motion handling also bothers me. The slow response time makes textures and details look blurry when moving, especially in games running at 30 frames per second. Dock mode improves things, but handheld, you'll notice it. Storage was another surprise. It has much more than the original Switch, but big games eat it up quickly. After just a few downloads, I had little left. If you go digital, you'll need a microSD express card. Physical games are better because they store most of the data on the cartridge. That saves space and also gives you the option to sell or share them later. In terms of size, I sometimes wish the Switch 2 was a little smaller. It's not huge, but it's less portable than I'd like. Nintendo also added some new features. There's game chat with a camera that shows your face above your character. It's fun to try, but not something I use often. There's also Joy-Con mouse support, which works surprisingly well for aiming. But again, it's more of a novelty than a must-have feature. Games are where the Switch 2 really shines. Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart World are the big exclusives, but the upgrades to older games are also impressive. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom now run at 60 frames with sharper resolution, HDR, and faster loading. Link's Awakening and Echoes of Wisdom now run smoothly at 60 and at 4 times the resolution. Mario Odyssey looks better than ever, with higher resolution and stable frame rates. Hogwarts Legacy is much improved, running closer to the PS4 version instead of the cut-down original Switch port. Splatoon 3 now runs at 4K 60 when docked and 1080p 60 handheld. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet are smoother than ever, nearly hitting 4K docked. Metroid Prime 4 also looks great, running at 4K 60 docked and even 120Hz handheld with VRR. Not every game has the same level of upgrade, but across the board, there are clear improvements. Still, I can't ignore how good games look on the Steam Deck OLED. The brighter OLED screen, higher refresh rate, and longer battery life make it very appealing. Plus, you get access to the massive Steam library. But the deck will never have Mario, Donkey Kong, or Zelda. That's Nintendo's strength. If you do buy a Switch 2, there are ways to make the experience better. First, buy physical games when possible. Some cartridges still come with the full game, not just a download key. That way, you can sell or lend them later. To improve battery life, disable 120Hz mode, use auto brightness, and consider turning off HDR or VRR. Airplane mode helps too. Charging up to 90% instead of 100 can also keep your battery healthier over time. Or just carry a power bank with you. With 2 USB-C ports, charging on the go is easy. Accessories also make a difference. A protective case and screen protector are essential since the screen is fragile. The Pro Controller is a big step up in comfort and precision compared to Joy-Cons. The new magnetic Joy-Con system feels sturdier and easier to use. If you try mouse mode, use the wrist strap for better control. Third-party covers can also make long sessions more comfortable. Game sharing is another option. With physical cartridges, you can lend them to friends. With digital games, you can set up a family group and share them for up to 2 weeks at a time. Given how expensive games are, this can help a lot. Looking ahead, Nintendo has already announced new games in its latest Direct. Titles like Borderlands 4, Monster Hunter Stories 3, and 007 First Light are on the way, along with more ports and upgrades to Switch 1 titles. The Indie Showcase also teased more upcoming games. So while the current library isn't huge, it's growing fast. In the end, the Switch 2 is fun, no doubt about that. It is a solid upgrade from the original Switch, but it's not perfect. Some choices hold it back, and it leaves room for a Switch 2 Pro or OLED model in the future. Right now, the biggest draw is still Nintendo exclusives, and fans are waiting for the next big Mario title. So what do you think? Have you bought a Switch 2 yet? If yes, what are your thoughts? And if not, what would convince you to pick one up? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and press the bell icon so you don't miss the latest updates.